Do Grail Guardians use cup protection in Tides of Torment? I admit it probably took a Canadian to write that title, but anything valuable deserves a high level of protection against violent aggression. Let's see how these Guardians serve in such a role. Recruited for 1900 gold and for 175 upkeep, on Ultra these have 32 entities with 1064 health between them for 222 health per. Entity numbers like this are similar to Saber Tusk packs. Like Grail Knights, they come with armor 120 and shields blocking 35% of small arms missiles from the frontal arc. Leadership 85 is even better than Grail Knights. Speed 84 and charge speed 108 are pristine. Melee attack 42 is pretty high, with each blow being magical attack. Attack interval 4.5 seconds means they have significantly less gap between attack animations than Lance Peers. Splash target size small, so Empire Swordsman on down, well there's really nothing smaller officially, and max targets 2 are less shocking than for Grail Knights, but since more of this unit might end up interspaced enough to use that splash, it is most welcome. Melee defense 58 is monstrous, but they are called Guardians. Weapon strength 60 is straight up high, split base 24 and armor piercing 36. That is not as radical a split as some, but that's still AP cavalry, able to maul other armored foes. But there is no bonus versus infantry or large. Charge bonus of 50 is a flaw because it's more restrained than others, although 50 is still pretty decent, and mass 1200 is pretty strong. Like Grail Knights, we have Hide and Forest, Knight Trait, Immunity to Psychology, the very powerful Perfect Vigor, Blessing of the Lady for 15% ward save, and Lance Formation availability. In the Redline skills, 3 pips of Glorfiniel's Progeny gives weapon strength plus 12% and charge bonus plus 12 flat. And here I owe you all an apology because I incorrectly thought that if that lined up, the rank 7 and up one would be shared as well. No. It's the chivalric code for the Super Elite, granting melee attack plus 5, weapon strength plus 12%, and ward save plus 8% full time. This applies to Royal Pegasus Knights, not the normal ones, which is part of how I made the error, Grail Knights, and Grail Guardians here. In the tech tree, all the good stuff is shoved toward the end. Blinker Hoods gives leadership plus 6 and charge bonus plus 10%. Steel Furnaces adds plus 8 armor. Master Swordsmiths adds plus 12% more weapon strength. Regular Tournaments grants melee attack and melee defense plus 5 each. In addition, Temple Tithes would grant plus 10% ward save to Grail Guardians, and I should have mentioned it for Grail Knights too. That's what I get for YouTubing during an unrelated project. Apologies nonetheless, but moving on. So how do you use Grail Guardians? One of you asked me if you can use Knights Errant as a cavalry anvil or other cavalry. If ever there was a unit built for that role, it's this, with slightly limited charge bonus, the improved armor and massively outsized melee defense for taking that role, and the health and general resilience to last long enough for the other cavalry to ride to the rescue, and finally, attack interval low enough and perfect vigor, keeping them fresh enough to simply maul a great many foes to death, even just on their own. Magical attack is fantastic against certain kinds of foes. So while Grail Knights have the elite anti-cavalry role covered ever so slightly better, Grail Guardians are simply too difficult to dislodge that you can use them to clog up the works, and that's such a curveball, or perhaps slider, to throw off the enemy's plans that you should abuse this to the maximum, stopping some slobbering bad thing cold, and giving you time to reposition resources to destroy it, be they magical, a shining knight riding a griffin, whatever. They'll buy you time nothing else seems qualified to. That matters. A commenter mentioned they seem to simply not chew up small infantry at the same pace of the Grail Knights, and the Grail Knights having minor splash but also having 48 entities makes me not doubt that. The trick going on here is to have such high melee defense, pace isn't likely to save anybody. They'll grind the foe down with little, or at least less, harm to themselves. Melee defense is also, in a brawl, the only way to prevent armor-piercing damage completely. High levels of ward save muffle that damage, adding even more value to your mobile anvil. Abuse with whatever hammer is appropriate. Take care, and have fun raising the Cup of Victory, a cup that requires proper protection indeed.